You can move a secret between two people without them ever meeting. Cold War tradecraft made that ordinary. Welcome back. I'm the Archive. I've been studying silent protocols and old tradecraft for decades. Today, we're looking at how professionals use the city itself to pass messages and material without touching each other. Stay with me and I'll explain the simple idea that made an entire urban landscape into a private vault. We live under constant registration. Every digital message, payment, or photo leaves a trail. Corporations log it, governments store it, and whoever controls the servers can see it. That's the modern problem. Almost every transfer creates evidence of the relationship between sender and receiver. In high-risk situations, espionage, resistance work, or even private sensitive exchanges in fraught contexts, that recorded link is the weakest point. Meeting face-to-face creates a paper trail of presence. Passing a package in public ties two people to each other. The question becomes blunt. How do you transfer something without creating a traceable interaction? The Cold War framed that problem in hard terms. Surveillance was ubiquitous, human and mechanical. A watched meeting could blow a network. Relying on technology that could be monitored or captured was a bad bet. The need was for a method that removed the act of transfer from the social record, that avoided meeting, and that minimized the chance of detection. It was not about tricking a single camera. It was about shaping behavior and place so that two people could exchange information without ever becoming linked in the eyes of an observer. That's a different problem than simple secrecy. It's about unlinkability. The classic historical solution was the dead drop, an idea older than the Cold War, but refined into a disciplined system by professionals. In broad terms, a dead drop lets one person deposit material in a pre-arranged place and a different person later retrieve it. The two acts are separated in time. The parties need never meet and need not share a simultaneous presence near the package. Crucially, the system was never just about burying a container. It combined three conceptual pieces: physical concealment, asynchronous exchange, and a method of signaling status without revealing linkage. Those three pieces together transformed ordinary public spaces into secure exchange infrastructure. This wasn't gadgetry, it was human systems engineering. Pick an environment that provides concealment and anonymity, use simple, reliable containers, and rely on separate, innocuous signals to communicate status. The genius was in the separation, decoupling the transfer from direct contact so that nothing in public tied the two people together. That separation reduced risk tremendously, and that's why professionals used it so often. A system that lets people exchange material without meeting, because meeting creates evidence. Asynchronous handoffs remove that evidence. For people operating under surveillance, that unlinkability was life insurance. The method favored patience and planning over speed. It worked because cities provide 1,000 ordinary spots and behaviors to hide behind. That's the payoff. You get a transfer with no observable linkage. And in an environment of constant watching, that's priceless. Success didn't come from quiet, lonely places. Professionals often favored spots that were busy enough not to be noticed. In practice, the best cover was normal activity, not secrecy. That feels backwards at first. You'd assume solitude is safer. But in an urban environment crowded with routine, a single ordinary action draws less attention than odd, furtive behavior. That counterintuitive idea is the heart of the tradecraft. I'm not providing operational instructions. What I will do is explain the conceptual mechanics so your audience understands the tradecraft historically and why it mattered. At its core, the system relies on 4 principles. First, separation of actors. The person who drops the item and the person who picks it up are never co-present. Their actions are separated by time. That prevents direct observation from connecting them. Second, concealment in plain sight. Material is placed in a location where many people pass through or pause for ordinary reasons. This normality provides a veil of anonymity. The site is not secret because it's hidden forever. It's secret because no functional link exists between 2 specific people and that location at a given time. Third, signaling that does not create linkage. Rather than calling or meeting to confirm a transfer, agents use simple public signals to indicate status. These signals were designed to be deniable and innocuous, something anyone might do as part of ordinary behavior. Importantly, the signal and the drop are separate acts in different places, so an observer cannot infer a relationship between the 2 people who performed them. Fourth, ritualized sanitation and contingency planning. Professionals expected risk and built minimal, repeatable procedures to reduce it. They relied on discipline. If a signal wasn't observed, they didn't approach the site. If something looked off, they abandoned the attempt. This logic minimized guesswork and allowed operatives to make decisions based on observable facts rather than hope. That discipline is what kept operations from becoming improvisations. This technique was used by a wide range of actors. Intelligence officers on both sides of the Iron Curtain, resistance movements, diplomats moving sensitive paperwork, and even everyday people who needed privacy in repressive contexts. It was practical, low-tech, and reliable. Because it didn't depend on electricity or networks, it remained useful even when technology failed or was compromised. That's why it persisted across decades and geographies. It's resilient. People assume secrecy requires isolation. The tradecraft convinced them otherwise. A place that invites ordinary behavior gives you cover. The goal is to do an ordinary thing that is indistinguishable from hundreds of other ordinary things, not to perform an extraordinary action that screams for attention. The safest act is the unremarkable one. Professionals exploited that banal anonymity. The city's routine is a mask, and they learned to move behind it. Dead drops were not without cost. They were slow, unsuited to urgent transfers. They demanded precise memory, discipline, and contingency thinking. Human error was the greatest risk. A wrong measurement, a missed signal, or a careless habit could create a vulnerability. The psychological burden was also real. Operating without direct confirmation breeds anxiety. You leave a package and then live with the knowledge that something critical now sits in the world beyond your control. That tension had to be managed professionally. There was also the risk of interception and accidental discovery. Public places are used by many hands. The system mitigated those risks through redundancy, cautious materials, and abandonment protocols, but it never removed them entirely. Tradecraft is about risk reduction, not risk elimination. The Cold War operatives understood that in a grim, pragmatic way. You accept residual risk because the alternative, a watched meeting, is far worse. It's important to emphasize techniques developed for espionage have legal and ethical consequences in the real world. Using or adapting these methods for illicit purposes is wrong and illegal. The historical lens matters because it helps us understand how privacy was achieved before digital surveillance, and it offers lessons about designing systems that avoid creating linkable records. The point for most modern users is not to recreate the tradecraft, but to learn a set of design principles. Minimize linkability, separate confirmation mechanisms, and favor public anonymity over rare secrecy. Those principles survive in many legal benign contexts. For example, organizations thinking about secure courier policies, disaster caches for legitimate emergency planning, or non-digital methods of ensuring chain of custody can benefit from the same conceptual logic. Separate acts, reduce signatures, and design for contingency. In an age where everything creates data, the idea of reducing the linkage a transfer creates is a useful framework for privacy-minded design, even in lawful settings. Another legacy is cultural. The dead drop became part of the spy lore that shapes popular imagination. That's why it's such a compelling video topic. It's tactile, old school, and reveals how people solve privacy in a world without ubiquitous metadata. For an audience that grew up before the internet or remembers a simpler manual era, the story lands as both romantic and practical. Again, nothing operational here, but for production value, show contrast. Wide city shots, the ordinary bustle that provides cover, archival photos of Cold War couriers, and innocuous urban furniture. Use close-ups of weathered surfaces, hands placing an envelope into a crevice, shot from an oblique, non-actionable angle, and reaction shots of an older person thinking, remembering, and walking away. Keep the first minute tight. State the payoff, outline the problem, summarize the solution. Then slow down for the explanation, the human stories, and the ethical reflection. That pacing holds viewers because it gives immediate curiosity and then pays it off with depth. Tradecraft worked not because it was clever, but because it fit human systems. People forget that privacy is social as well as technical. The dead drop depended on ordinary human routines. People who read bulletin boards, people who pass under bridges, commuters who never look twice at the same spot twice. Those routines form predictable noise that obscures anything hidden inside them. For operatives, that predictability was a feature. It let them rely on the city's inertia rather than crafting ever more elaborate tricks. If you like these practical history digs, subscribe to the archive. We examine old solutions that still teach us how to live better in a modern, fragile world. Tell me in the comments, which old method of privacy or resilience do you want us to unpack next? I'll dig through the files and bring it back. I've been reading silent protocols for decades. Tradecraft like this isn't mystery theatre. It's the application of patient, low-tech logic to a real problem. How to move something without creating a record of a relationship. In an era that assumes every transfer leaves a footprint, that mindset is worth remembering. Keep your wits and keep your ethics. That's the real tradecraft.